For their very first year, the Academy's nominees for Best Supporting Actress were Beulah Bondi as the wife of President Andrew Jackson in the Joan Crawford vehicle The Gorgeous Hussy, Alice Brady as Carole Lombard's ditzy mother in My Man Godfrey, Bonita Granville as the little girl from hell in These Three, Maria Uspenskaya as the disapproving would-be mother-in-law in Dodsworth, and Gale Sondergaard in Anthony Adverse. This lineup actually feels like a perfect start to this category, because it sees so many archetypes that will dominate Best Supporting Actress for the years to come. There is the nomination for a comedic performance, the nomination for a dependable veteran who steals the movie from far bigger names, the nod for a child actress, the nomination for a very small performance with just a few minutes of screen time, and the recognition of the screen newcomer, the supporting role in a big epic, and the occasional villain. Alice Brady was universally applauded for her comedic work in My Man Godfrey, reviews calling her a riot and hysterically funny, but if Anthony Adverse was seen as a movie where the supporting players overshadow the leading actors, this was not the case with My Man Godfrey, as most critics focused their praise on the work by William Powell and Carole Lombard. Beulah Bondi was often singled out in reviews of The Gorgeous Hussy, called touching and memorable as a woman who feels out of place in the role that her marriage had given her. She was easily the most praised aspect of her movie, but that didn't seem to be too big a stretch, as many critics found little to like in it otherwise. Maria Uspenskaya, a highly respected stage performer and acting teacher, who was already a kind of living legend in 1936, made her first movie appearance in William Wyler's Dodsworth, and despite only having one scene, pretty much walked away with the picture as far as the critics were concerned, who stated that she turned her brief appearance into a small masterpiece that achieved brilliant results. Browsing through contemporary reviews, I have to say that the most critical praise at the time was undoubtedly given to 13-year-old Bonita Granville in These Three. She was called the meanest girl on the screen today, who gave one of the best acting jobs of the year and effortlessly overshadowed her experienced co-stars Merle Oberon, Miriam Hopkins, and Joel McCrea. In regards to this first Oscar race, there was little speculation about who would or should win the award. The category was still new, and most attention in the pre-Oscar coverage was on the leading categories, where Paul Muni and Louise Reiner appeared to be the favorites. However, a few articles did state that Bonita Granville should win the award, while Daily Variety predicted a close race between Maria Uspenskaya and Gale Sondergaard. So after a quick look at this category, there is the question, why did Gale Sondergaard emerge as the first winner of the Best Supporting Actress Oscar? Obviously, these early races are very difficult to analyze, since circumstances were so different compared to today, and as just said, there weren't a lot of discussions about the singular instances of the category in the press, so I can only give a few personal observations on why I think Gale Sondergaard triumphed in the end. First of all, you can probably speculate that each of her co-nominees had certain factors against her. Bonita Granville, despite all the critical acclaim, had the simple misfortune that she was still only 13 years old. As we know, the Academy tends to hesitate when awarding child performers, even creating a juvenile award for a short period of time to try to keep them away from the regular acting categories. Maria Uspenskaya, despite the respect for her as a performer and acting teacher, might have suffered from her screen time. We know that this category was introduced to award character actors in smaller roles, but most winners, even at the time, still had parts with more influence on the storyline and a larger overall impact on the audience. Beulah Bondi might have been seen as the highlight of The Gorgeous Hussy, but the movie likely felt too neglectable to many Academy members, while Alice Brady was in a comedy, a genre that the Academy tended to treat as second class pretty much right from the start, also demonstrated by the fact that all other nominated performers from My Man Godfrey lost in their categories as well. So looking at the competition, Gale Sondergaard just appears to have the most advantages in her corner. As mentioned before, She had strong reviews for her performance in Anthony Adverse and also saw a lot of publicity as a new kind of screen actress who caused such a sensation with her first movie role. She furthermore played one of the most well-known characters in one of the most popular books of its time, and even if the role had been strongly adjusted for the screen, almost everyone still felt that she fulfilled all the expectations that had been associated with it.
You flatter me.
It was also a quite unusual role. A female villain who isn't punished for her actions, but gets away with everything she does and is even rewarded for it in the end. So the character certainly sticks out in the cinema landscape of 1936 and left a kind of lasting impression that dominated almost all discussions about Anthony Adverse. Prior to the Oscars, the press also named Gale the biggest scene stealer of the year, over performers like her co-nominee Beulah Bondi, but also Judy Garland in Pigskin Parade or Misha Auer in My Man Godfrey. And then of course, you cannot completely ignore studio politics. Anthony Adverse was Warner's biggest production of the year and obviously intended to walk away with some awards. With extras now being allowed to vote for the Oscar winners, Warner Bros. Had the second largest voting body within the Academy, after MGM, which saw many of its contract players win during these years. Ahead of the 1936 Oscars, Daily Variety wrote that both studios essentially agreed to push each other for the awards, MGM instructing its employees to vote for Anthony Adverse and The Story of Louis Pasteur in various categories, while Warner's aimed to support MGM with wins for The Great Ziegfeld and its newest star Louise Reiner, which all worked quite well. The Great Ziegfeld won Best Picture and Best Actress, while The Story of Louis Pasteur won Best Actor for Paul Muni, and Anthony Adverse walked away with 4 Oscars overall, including 1 for Gale Sondergaard. But while it is important to mention these kinds of politics going on in the background, I also don't want to emphasize them too strongly, because it feels to lessen the quality and impact of the honored work. Louise Reiner undoubtedly gave the most acclaimed and most talked about female characterization of the year that would very likely have won under any circumstances, and Paul Muni was a highly respected performer who had more than enough admiration in the industry to win this award all by himself. And as mentioned before, Gale Sondergaard's work in Anthony Adverse and her entire personality as an actress were widely praised as well. But in a category without a clear frontrunner, the support from the biggest Hollywood studios was undoubtedly an important advantage for her.